Story 1. My dad, 54, and my best friend, 20 female, let's call her Sophie, have been acting suspiciously for quite a long time. I've always sensed a little tension between them that sparks up whenever she comes over, with my dad finding ridiculous excuses to leave the room or house, and her getting all awkward. I always attributed it to them being introverted. I know this isn't enough reason to suspect that something's going on, but things have been playing out weirdly since then. Sophie and I became friends 6 years ago, and have been close ever since. She's almost as close as family, and helped me get through 2019 when my parents divorced. My younger brother, 19, and I have lived with Dad since the divorce. Sophie and I used to hang out at least 5-6 times a week, but lately, it's come down to us hanging out only twice a week. Uni being the reason behind it, and I respect that. Hence, I didn't pry any further. Returning to the topic, the last time we hung out it was her place, and we were getting down to our PJs after an engagement party we'd attended. The plan was to catch up on our skipped movie nights for the past 2 months. So she was taking a shower while I sat in my PJs on her bed, and that's when I noticed a bracelet on her nightstand. I found it to be really pretty, but by the time she returned I'd already long forgotten about it. Fast forward to 3 days ago and my dad and I were tracking the shipment details of my aunt's birthday gift, when a very familiar bracelet caught my eye in the past orders list. Amazon has it, and I immediately recognized it as the one I'd seen on Sophie's nightstand, or at least it was completely identical to it. Another reason that fueled this very weird suspicion was when my dad abruptly canceled a family dinner about 2 months ago, calling it a work emergency, so we simply decided to reschedule it. Having no other plans, I called up Sophie at around 7 p.m., only for it to be answered on the first ring. I don't even get to say the first word when she, almost breathlessly, asks me about my day, and I do tell her about the canceled dinner and ask about her plans, which she declines by saying she had to meet up with her mom that same day at around 8. And then something weirder happens. I hear Elton John's Tiny Dancer, my dad's ringtone, play in the background, followed by an abrupt silence. All this happens while I sit beside my brother who has just dialed Dad. I ask her about that sound, and she said it was probably just the Google Home malfunctioning. I wish this were the only reason why I was suspicious of them. I invited Sophie to a family dinner with us about 2 weeks ago. My younger brother was bringing his longtime girlfriend, so my dad said it'd be a good idea to see if Sophie wanted to join us too, which was odd, but I thought he just didn't want me to feel left out. I did end up inviting her, and she said she'd join us. My dad is always in charge of picking the restaurants, and this time he decided to pick out a new place a few miles from our neighborhood, and it coincidentally turned out to be the place Sophie was bugging me to go with her. I thought it was a lucky coincidence, but I still couldn't help but find it odd. Things got weird when my dad went on to order the food. I picked out a dish and so did my brother and his girlfriend. Dad didn't wait for Sophie to say what she wanted to have and ordered a dish for her. She didn't seem to have a problem with it, which was crazy because Sophie is a very picky eater, and because it's kind of rude to order for someone without asking them. I confronted my dad then and there, and he said he didn't realize it and just took a lucky kiss. Sophie seemed visibly tense and uncomfortable, just asking me to let it go. Since I didn't want to spoil everyone's mood, I didn't stretch it out further. I confronted Sophie about it yesterday, and was met with an argument that included her denying all the claims and calling me crazy for even thinking about the possibility of it. Still, she ended her sentence by saying, even if we were, how would that affect you in any way or form? I would still be your best friend, and he your dad. Which I didn't pay heed to in the heat of the argument, but that came back to me later in the day. Am I the idiot for jumping to conclusions? Or am I really going crazy? OP. Asked Dad, did you know Sophie's pregnant? I don't know the father, but she seems really happy about having a child and marrying this guy. I can't believe I haven't met him yet. Ask him over dinner. See how far he sprays the potatoes. His response will probably tell you everything you need to know. This is brilliant. Also, Op should 100% start calling Sophie mom and tell her she's just practicing. I would have confronted your dad about it before your friend. Your friend is basically a dumb kid still. Your dad is grown up. He should be more responsible than to be having intimacy with his daughter's friend who is 34 years his junior. And even if we were a statement, he's an admission to me. I'm sorry this is happening. But I say trust your instinct. You're not crazy, and you're not the idiot. I would tell her the friendship is over. Your dad is screwing your best friend who he has known as your friend since she was a teen. She is lying to you and dismissing what she knows to be a huge deal. Cut them both off. Their behavior is wrong. I, 19 female, have been babysitting occasionally for a few families for the past 2 years. A week ago, a new family got my numbers from one of the families I babysit for a lot. I told them up front that I have this rule where I only babysit boys who are 10 and under. But when it comes to girls, the age isn't an issue for me. They told me that they had 2 boys just under 10, so I agreed. They told me that they had very important plans the day I was to babysit, and I assured them I was very professional and would be there on time and all that. The day came and I went to their house. The dad greeted me and then took me to their living room to meet the boys. To my surprise, one boy looked like an older tween, and the other looked like he could be young to mid-teen or even 16. Both were taller than me, and the older one even had some visible facial hair. All that was going through my head was these parents lied to me about the ages, because I lead with my rule about ages, and they lied to me just so I would accept. When the mother came down and greeted me, I asked to speak to her in another room, and I told her I couldn't babysit. I was also truthful about the reason, and she was livid. We got into a back and forth where I basically said that I felt they lied about the ages, and she even said, "Oh, so you want me to show you their birth certificates to believe me?" At this point I was kind of mad because she was immediately livid, and I also felt like I was fooled. Anyway, I said, yeah, some proof would help. She stomped off to the living room, and I could hear her tell her husband, "Get this witch out of my house, I will stay with the boys." I walked out the kitchen towards the front door and announced, "I'm leaving," before I stepped out. Later that night, the mom of the family member who recommended me called, and was also pretty angry. I explained that these boys looked so much older than they were said to be, and there was no way they weren't lying. She said maybe one is actually a year older, but the other one is truly a pre-tween, and that they just look like they were so much older. To be fair, the mother was tall and the dad was huge. It's actually the reason I asked to confront the mother and not the father. The boys weren't just as tall, but also looked older face-wise. I was also babysitting 2 strange boys who were both taller and clearly so much stronger than me. Doesn't feel safe, which is why I have the age rule in the first place. There was no way that their mother didn't realize her boys looked so much older than boys their age. I feel like it was something she should have mentioned after telling her my rule about ages. I felt like I was justified, but I also felt bad that I ruined their plans. Everyone involved is angry with me, and I wonder if I was overreacting and should have just babysat since I agreed. Right now, I don't know what to think. Was I the idiot here? Not the idiot. It sucks for the mom that her young kids are so big, but she's gonna have to spring for a large adult male babysitter. This is not easy to come by. She might not be able to go out until the boys are old enough to stay home alone, or she could trade nights with other boy moms. But this is not your problem. It was ridiculous of her to expect a teenage girl to be able to deal with boys who are bigger than her. Also, she was totally out of line cursing you out like that. If that's the level of emotional regulation you get from a parent, I shudder to think what you get from the kids. I stayed home alone at 11. I even looked after my grandma at that age. At 12, I babysat myself. I feel like I'm in a different timeline. If he's old enough to have facial hair, he seems old enough to stay home for a day without his parents. We were always told to go to the house next door if an emergency needed an adult, or call 911 depending on the issue. Yeah, why would parents hire a babysitter for teenagers? They don't need to do that. I once babysat a toddler and found out that their sibling, also a teen, maybe 13 or 14, was home the whole time, and their parents just had them hide in the bedroom and play computer games, so they wouldn't have to pay me for 2 kids because the teenager didn't need a babysitter. They just weren't responsible enough to care for the toddler. I'm so impressed that you stood up for yourself like that. Your gut is usually right and you're wise enough to trust it. I'm in a bit of a moral and emotional quandary and could really use some outside perspectives. Here's the situation. I'm 25 male, have a stable life and a decent income. I've been dating a woman 28 for almost a year now. We've had talks about marriage, living together, and eventually having kids. Recently, she got pregnant. I was upfront about being ready and willing to embrace fatherhood, and I reassured her that I'd support whatever decision she made, emphasizing her happiness and autonomy. Despite my desire for the baby, I didn't want to pressure her and believed in supporting her choice. I created a financial plan and put everything together, showcasing that we'd be living very comfortably. I make 5 times her salary and work remotely, so I could also help around the house a lot. I said I was ready to have the baby, would like to have it, and that we should get married ASAP. We talked in detail about this scenario. However, her first reaction to the test results is that she has a high desire to have a termination. After a few days, she decided that she wasn't ready to give up her current lifestyle for motherhood yet. We agreed. While I've maintained a supportive front internally, I'm devastated. I haven't shared the extent of my grief with her, as I don't want to influence her post-decision or add to the emotional burden. I'm conflicted. Despite my initial support, I'm considering breaking up post-procedure. The realization that our values might significantly diverge, especially on something as fundamental as starting a family, has me questioning our compatibility. While she's lived a vibrant life full of experiences, I feel that we're at a point where settling down shouldn't be off the table. Her decision, while I respect it, makes me feel we're not as aligned as I thought. I plan to ensure she's okay physically and emotionally in the immediate aftermath, but I think it might be best to part ways after. Not because of the decision itself, but because it highlighted a profound difference in where we see our lives going. It's not about resentment, it's about recognizing we may not be the soulmates I thought we were. But to be honest, I think I could never get rid of the thought that she got rid of our baby. Would I be the idiot for ending things after ensuring she's recovered, given that this situation has revealed a significant gap in our life paths and values? There have also been other moments. For example, we had planned to move in together after 1 year. When the time came, she also said she wanted to wait more. We had planned to make a small, fun couple tattoo, but when the time came, she said she wanted to do it later. I feel ready to move to another chapter of my life, and I feel like her decision will make me stop loving her. I fully support and understand her, but I just can't help but feel this way, even though she's perfect in every other way. Dude, you're dating for almost a year. In my opinion, you're going way too fast. You should stop by seeing after 2 years living together if you're still a good match. Do not rush into parenthood. After that, thinking about kids is reasonable in my opinion. The tattoo is way too fast in my opinion too, so I get that one. Otherwise, yes, she might want to take it slower than you, and that's reasonable. Parenthood aside, he rushed right into, let's get married now. I don't know about anyone else, but the thought of he married me only because we got pregnant just doesn't sit well with me. She's actually making a very rational decision to slow him down. But if he's looking to rush into things, he can mess around and find out, with someone who also likes to rush into big commitments, without fully knowing the people they're involved with. Op is definitely immature, and not ready for parenthood. I could also help around the house. Help? How does performing your parental responsibilities help? You don't help around your own goddamn house. You know, he's the kind of guy that would call it babysitting when he's caring for his own kid. You are the idiot. Stop rushing her. She seems sensible, as you two haven't been dating that long. I think you should break up with her, because it seems you desire a relationship, not necessarily her. My 42 male wife, 39, is a high school dropout. But obviously she's so much more than that, and never once did I ever give the fact that she had fewer hours in a classroom than some other women a second thought. This is a sore subject for me because peers would judge us about her getting a JED. My wife was already a busy stay-at-home mom, and my family business made enough for the both of us. My wife didn't need a JED to be what she already was, funny and engaging. Despite her struggles with classroom learning, she was always open to listening and absorbing information that I was excited about. In the end, I concluded they just used it as something to feel superior to my wife. My son Ben Teen has unfortunately sunk neck deep into the concept of influencing. He is obsessed to the point where he's blown his allowance money on courses and influencer events that advertise lessons on how to build a following. It's gotten bad enough that I've considered changing the rules of his allowance to impose restrictions, because these courses offer nothing of value, except some false hope with all the buzzwords desired by their teen target audience. My daughter, Teen, our oldest child, told us Ben had looked up laws about the age at which he could drop out. I asked Ben, and he replied that he knew enough about 10th grade classes to be showing his mom how he was doing his homework and writing his essays and explaining concepts to her, and that if Mom dropped out and I accepted her dropping out, plus bounced ideas off her, then I would be a hypocrite if I refused to let him drop out. This made everything very frustrating because I didn't want my wife and I to deal with a son who was being pig-headed with unrealistic dreams. But I wouldn't have Ben's situation be one where swipes are taken at my capable wife. That all exploded when my daughter decided to interject when I was trying to get through to Ben. Ben said, "Mom dropped out and did just fine." And my daughter said her mom is not a dropout success story, because dropout successes gain the skills to create good situations for themselves without school. But her mom's situation is determined mostly by other people's decisions and emotions. That was so out of line that I had to send her to her room and ask that she give her iPad and phone to me. She could use a computer in my office to do assignments because she was clearly hearing this argument from somewhere. My wife, luckily, hasn't been involved in these conversations, so she didn't hear this and hopefully never will. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your daughter wasn't lying and wasn't trying to be rude or disrespectful. She's correct. Your wife's comfortable position in life is due to your love for her and your strong partnership. If you die or lose interest in her, her circumstances could rapidly deteriorate. Your daughter knows this and was giving an accurate assessment and was trying to support you in talking to your son. You should apologize to your daughter. If you think your wife is not at a disadvantage, you're more delusional than your son. His wife could be brilliant, but I hope he has a large life insurance policy. She won't have good job opportunities if she tries to enter the workforce. Dude, your wife is doing okay because she doesn't need an education to be a stay-at-home mom. That's what your son needs to know. Mom is doing great, but she has no salary. If his goal is $0, he's on track. I hope you apologize to your daughter. Also make sure your dummy of a son stays in school and doesn't drop out to be an influencer. There are also not a lot of women lining up to be sugar mamas for useless boys who want to make it big on social media. Stay-at-home dads are a thing, but usually successful women marry men with a similar educational background, and the decision is made because her career out-earns his. Women aren't generally content with baristas and waiters with ambitions to be stay-at-home parents. Does your son think he will land a sugar mama being one of a million influencers? Lamphao. His plan to get a following is not a business plan. Lamphao. His plan to get a following is not a business plan. That is a pipe dream. For every big influencer, there are tens of thousands of failures. Thank you for watching.